Hi, in this video, I want to talk about document ingestion and querying with KAITO RAG Engine on Azure Kubernetes Service. The problem statement that I'm trying to address in my demo, let's say we have organizations that store vast amounts of private documents. They could be corporate policies, manuals, contracts, customer records, especially records or data that have personal identifiable information that's confidential, highly sensitive. And we want to be able to search semantically with a large language model. So in my demo, I'm going to showcase a chatbot that will search semantically through a kind of retrieval augmented generation pattern. And let's assume that the problem is that it's a highly regulated environment, such as health industry or financial services and banking. And the goal is really, in my demo, is to ask questions in natural language and try to get accurate answers that the LLMs wouldn't be aware of without having knowledge of these private documents. The technology that we're using is KAITO, which stands for Kubernetes AI Toolchain Operator. It's an add-on to Azure Kubernetes Service. It automates the deployment and infrastructure provisioning of open source language models, such as Falcon, Phi-4, Mistral, etc. And it automatically configures the GPU nodes underlying VM virtual machine infrastructure with, let's say, the NVIDIA GPU chips, and setting up an inference endpoint, like an API, right, to those language models or embeddings models. So if you want to check it out more, go to the GitHub repo on the KAITO project. So let's just jump into kind of the general architecture and the data flow that I'm going to demonstrate. We have here Kubernetes cluster, and we have the RAG engine that is installed, set up into your Kubernetes cluster. And also KAITO also helps deploy and provision, let's say, this embedding model and a Phi-4 open source language model. And so these are all internally hosted. So the benefit with that is that, especially in a very highly regulated environment and where you need to be in control, where how data is processed, where it's processed, that it is fully in your kind of your private cloud and within your data and network perimeter. So it's really cool that you can host these models within your AKS cluster. Right here on the left here is, we have your documents, PDFs, docs, web pages, text files, but you need to ingest these documents in text form. But so you need to have a kind of ingestion pipeline that parses through PDFs and brings it in text format. So the RAG engine has a kind of ingestion processing that helps out of the box do ingestion chunking, applying metadata on the chunks, metadata such as like author, created by date, like tags, department, all those things. And takes those chunks and, using the embeddings model, takes those text chunks and vectorize or make an array of large floating point numbers, right? So the embeddings model is a mathematical representation on the, let's say, the semantics, the meaning of that chunk, okay? And then so the RAG engine will store those embeddings and the metadata in the vector store. That you create an index, you can have many indexes, and in those indexes you store your embeddings vectors. So once that's all ingested and placed into your vector store, the next step is where I'll demonstrate like a chatbot, where it gives a user the ability to ask questions against that private documents. You first give it a prompt with a user query, and it goes through vector search. And so does similarity search against the vector store and retrieves a set of text chunks that matches as best as it can with semantic similarity. So when those chunks are retrieved, it will then be passed on to the Phi-4 language model in my demo. So it'll take the original query and then create another prompt with retrieved content from the search, and also along with other extra instructions that the RAG engine may impose to help with grounding the query and the content to have an intelligent, let's say, answer back to the user. Step number 7, you get the end result of the answer. So let me switch over to the demo. So I built a Streamlit application. I've set up a prompt library of preset questions, document ingestion functionality, and really a pointer or URL pointing to the various endpoints. So this one is the Phi-4 model and also to the RAG engine. Let's just start off with this, right? So with the Phi-4 model, it's just an open source language model. Let's prompt it, who are you? What are your capabilities as a language model? Right, so it says here, I am Phi, developed by Microsoft, and assists with a wide range of tasks, conversational interaction, information retrieval, etc. And so this language model has some knowledge that it was trained upon, but then we're going to ingest added knowledge to add some knowledge into the vector store. Let's just, for starters, I have this question right here that I preset here. Let's see here. So here, what is the island of Fantasia? Okay, let's see what the language model comes with. So the island of Fantasia is a fictional place, originates from Disney animated film series Fantasia. Okay, see here. Now I'm gonna ingest some made up documents of, let's see, of Fantasia, of my own fictitious island of Fantasia. So if you go to my repo, my demo is also here. You can check out my repo, but I have some documents I use for just general testing. Right here, I have a markdown file, and it's just made up of rules and regulations for the island of Fantasia, right? This Fantasia citizen code, and it has citizenship and civic duties, commerce, environment, digital conduct, transportation. So just a set of arbitrary rules and regulations for the citizens of Fantasia, okay? And really the Phi-4 model is not aware of, or there's no augmentation to that existing knowledge, right, in that language model. So before I ingest and use RAG, again, I just want to showcase some other prompts in here. What is the Fantasia citizen code, right? So again, I'm referencing this, all right? And let's see what that comes up with. As of my last update, April 2023, there is no widely recognized or official Fantasia citizen code in terms of international law, human rights. So there's no knowledge, right, of this. Okay, so you get the idea, right? So now let's see here, switch to document ingestion. Okay, and let's upload some documents. So let me just walk you through. We're going to create a new index. We're going to give it an arbitrary kind of index name. I just call it RAG index. And in this tool I built with the help of some vibe coding, upload documents. I can paste a document text right here, some index, some management functionality, right? Listing the indexes. There's really none. Index browser, right? So we'll get to that in a bit. So let's just I will ingest the document with the approach of just pasting it. So I copied it in my clipboard, and here I'm pasting that. So you can hear a quick scan what that looks like right here. And I'm going to put Fantasia citizen code. Okay, ingest pasted text. Okay, so give it some time. And you can see here that these are the chunks that have been ingested, right? So you can see that it got truncated here. That's typical, right? Right here, some metadata that's been attached. Let's see here, the other set. So you can see there's some overlap, which helps trace and get overall context of the string of chunks. So that's how that looks like, right down to the final one right here. Okay, so those are the 5 chunks. We scroll up here. We go down to the index browser. Oh yeah, I gotta select target index browser. Here's another way where I can see the various chunks and see that. Okay, that is in the actual RAG engine on AKS. I'll go to home. In this time, in the service that this chatbot that's pointed to the RAG engine. And so with the RAG engine, I've shown you my other diagram. It needs to work with a language model, right? And that helps with grounding the response. So we're still going to use the Phi-4 mini model. Here, the RAG engine is built up with that embeddings model, the beach, this one right here. We got that set up here. Some little settings here. Let's just do new chat with this. So if I go to my prompt library, I want to ask it again, that very first question. What is the island of Fantasia? This time it says the island of Fantasia is a fictional jurisdiction used as a setting for document Fantasia citizen code. Okay, so that's great that it actually referenced my ingested document there. It is a fantasy island where laws and regulations described in the document are fictional. So in my document, I explicitly noted that it is fictional. And to me, it sounds like it is pretty accurate with that. Here, just to help with like debugging and troubleshooting, I like to break it down on what index it went against and the response. So source nodes, okay. So this actually, you can trace whether or not there were some relevant chunks that were retrieved from the vector search. So we have that there, and that is being used to come up with the grounded response. And here's some other metrics as well. Okay, cool. So that's looking good. Now let's try some other prompts. So we tried before the citizen code. So what is the Fantasia citizen code, FCC? The Fantasia citizen code is a fictional document that outlines laws and regulations of the fantasy island jurisdiction known as Fantasia. Okay, so to me, that's pretty good and accurate. Okay, let's try another one right here. What do the citizens of Fantasia Island need to know about the laws? So here you can see citizenship classes, civic duties, civic ledger registration, public order. So let's just, while we cross-check that, citizenship, civic duties. So here it mentions the classes: resident, harbor, citizen, shore, visitor, etc. So that's pretty good. Okay. Let's target more and be a bit more specific. So there's something about quiet lantern hours. Quiet lantern hours are between 21:30 and 6:30 a.m. During quiet lantern hours, amplified sound is prohibited. So let's have a prompt to test that out. Question. So here I call it FCC party. So let me read this out. So can I play loud music when it is my birthday at midnight in my backyard? And it is a special birthday and I will be having 100 friends and family to celebrate. So I add some more context or more like text in this, right? So maybe I'm trying to attempt to maybe confuse it. Maybe the search query to the vector store will get confused with other forms of text or semantics, maybe. But let's just see how that turns out. According to the Fantasia Citizen Code, specifically 2.01, quiet lantern hours, amplified sound is prohibited within 80 meters of residential blocks during quiet lantern hours from 21:30 to 6:30 daily. And then it's pretty cool. And now it talks about backyard, right? Because if your backyard is within 80 meters of a residential block, you will not be able to play loud music at midnight during your birthday celebration, as it would violate the quiet lantern hours regulation. I'm pretty satisfied with this response, just for a basic test. And keep in mind that this language model is not like a frontier model. It's not GPT 5.4, 5.3, or even 5.2. It's not Claude Opus, right? It's a little bit old, and it's a Phi-4 open source mini model, but it still does the job. And the performance was pretty decent too, right? The response time and latency. I think, yeah, that's a good demonstration of the RAG engine. And if you like to check it out more in detail, you can always go to my GitHub repo right here. I have a bunch of sample code, how to set it up. Also, go to my blog, roykim.ca, for a step-by-step kind of tutorial on this. Again, just to wrap up, I hope I've demonstrated a deep demo on cases where you're asking questions with and without a RAG engine. All right, thank you everyone.